Great. So Christina, it's showing as the, not in the presenter view, it's not full screen, just so you know.
Great. Yeah, I haven't done that because I won't be able to see anybody once I do that. Then it shows me the notes view.
Great. Well, I think folks are probably going to keep trickling in for the next few minutes here, but we can go ahead and get started. Introduce ourselves. I'm Gina Clitheroe with the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets, and I'm managing the day-to-day operations of the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program, and will be managing the Specialty Crop Producer Association grants as well. And I'm here with Christina.
Great. Thank you, everyone. This is Christina Sweet. I have been overseeing the Vermont Specialty Crop Block Grant programs for about 7 years now, and I'm really excited to be working with Gina on not one, but 2 opportunities for this year. So we have kind of 3 parts to this webinar today. I am going to talk a little bit about the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program in general. Gina's going to talk about our Special Producer Association grant opportunity this year, and then we'll give a little bit of a more detailed view into the regular Specialty Crop Block Grant Program competition. That's the annual competition that we typically have, and Gina will give a quick tutorial on accessing our grants management system known as Web Grants. So just a reminder today, I guess we should have actually updated that slide. Please keep your mic muted when not speaking, and feel free to use the raise hand function to ask a question or share your ideas, or you can type your question or comment in the chat. And thanks so much for joining us today. We're excited to start talking about these 2 programs for 2022. So this is just a really brief overview of the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. It is a federally funded program, and it was first authorized in the 2004 Farm Bill and then reauthorized by Congress in subsequent farm bills. And it's administered by USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service. So you'll see that abbreviated as AMS. The block grant part of the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program is the award that goes to each of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories. And the idea with the block grant is that states, territories, and Washington, D.C. have quite a bit of discretion in how they spend those funds, as long as it fits within the parameters of the program. And the overall purpose of the program is to enhance the competitiveness of U.S. specialty crops. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. My slides are not advancing. There we go. So what is a specialty crop? So quite a few items that we grow and produce here in Vermont. Specialty crops are defined in U.S. statute as fruits and vegetables, tree nuts, dried fruits, horticulture, and nursery crops, including floriculture. This definition includes hops, honey, maple, and mushrooms, as well as Christmas trees. Processed products also work as long as they are more than 50% of specialty crops. So wine, cider, and jam would be examples of processed specialty crops that we produce here in Vermont. And the purpose of the program is to enhance the competitiveness of U.S. specialty crops within a few general buckets. We have marketing and promotion. We can support projects focused on research and development, projects for availability and access to specialty crops, and projects that are addressing local, regional, and national challenges for specialty crop producers. Lastly, the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program specifically funds projects as opposed to ongoing operations within an organization or a business. So USDA defines a project as a set of interrelated tasks with a cohesive, distinct, specified, and defined goal. Some of the characteristics of a project here are, again, that defined goal, a set of tasks or activities to get you to that goal, a planned approach and timeline, budget and resources specifically allocated to that project, usually involves a team of people, but not always, and it has specific start and end dates. talked a little bit about that block grant concept. So again, that block grant is the grant that we receive annually at the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, and then we subaward those funds to projects that will enhance the competitiveness of Vermont and regionally grown specialty crops. So you'll hear some of our grantees referred to as subrecipients of the federal award. So this is an overview of our 2 opportunities this year. Gina is going to talk about our Specialty Crop Producer Association grant, and this is a grant where we have up to $300,000 available through a special award that we received last year due to COVID-19 stimulus funding. So we are making this opportunity available specifically to producer associations, cooperatives, and groups of 3 or more producers, or service providers that could be nonprofit or for-profit that are going to provide technical assistance to producer associations, cooperatives, or groups of 3 or more producers. Matching funds or cost share is not required as part of this opportunity, and grantees will all have access to technical assistance for project support. There's a single application that'll be due on February 27th, 2022. We'll note that date again, and you can note that that is a Sunday, so that's outside of state business hours. So you can apply up until the deadline of February 27th at 11:59 p.m., but just note that assistance won't be available outside of typical state business hours. The regular 2022 Specialty Crop Block Grant Program is, which some of you may be familiar with. We are going to be able to award around $200,000 in 2022. Any entity may apply, but specifically projects have to benefit multiple producers. So we cannot fund projects that are focused on supporting a single business or supporting a single organization. It really has to have an impact on a group of producers or an industry. We do require a 50% match of the request. So if you're requesting $10,000, you would need to provide a $5,000 match for a total project cost of $15,000. We can go into a little bit more detail there later on. And the project really needs to address a specific issue, problem, or need for specialty crop producers and demonstrate outreach, communication, and partnership with producers. So in addition to your great idea, we really want to see that you have support of the industry and the potential beneficiaries of your project. And we have a 2-stage application process for this program. There's a pre-application also due on Sunday, February 27th. That's sort of a general project idea and an estimated budget. And then a review committee will invite a subset of those pre-applications back to submit full applications, and those will probably be due in April. But we will provide all of the details to those applicants that are invited back to submit a full application. Now I am going to pass it off to Gina, and I think so that you can see the notes, Gina, I will stop sharing and then you can share the slides. And we will be able to talk a little bit more about our special one-time funding opportunity. Great, I am seeing the slideshow.
Great. All right, so to get started with the Specialty Crop Producer Association grant, I will just start off by sharing some quick facts about this opportunity. As Christina mentioned, it is a one-time opportunity made available due to additional federal funds. The eligibility for the Specialty Crop Producer Association grant is limited to producer associations, cooperatives, and groups of 3 or more producers or businesses, as well as nonprofit or for-profit service providers that serve producer associations, cooperatives, and groups of 3 or more producers or businesses. Note that for eligibility, projects must benefit multiple specialty crop producers, and projects to establish or expand a single specialty crop business are not eligible. The available funds for this round are $300,000 in total, and there's no minimum or maximum award. Projects can be funded for up to 2 years or 24 months. The purpose of this one-time funding opportunity is to establish or strengthen producer associations and cooperatives that serve Vermont specialty crop businesses. And here we have a list of potential project focuses that would fit within this grant purpose. For example, organizational development, which could be improving governance and governance training, increasing paid staff capacity, strategic planning, fiscal integrity, and sustainability. Projects could also focus on membership development, potentially expanding and improving membership services, such as marketing, technical assistance, collaborative marketing initiatives to market and promote specialty crops, and product-specific training. These could also focus on improving membership recruitment and retention, improving member engagement and participation, and these projects could also focus on determining how services could be shared across associations and building connections to associations in other states. There's also kind of this open-ended component or where other projects could focus on other critical needs facing specialty crop producers or associations that are not listed here, but would still contribute to the overall purpose of establishing or strengthening producer associations. I'd also want to note that for this application, we're really trying to continue to align with the Vermont Agriculture and Food System Strategic Plan, which was released in 2021. And for this application, we are asking folks to identify one or more priority strategies, strategic goals, objectives, or recommendations for strengthening Vermont's food system. And we are including that here to just continue to further and implement the work that went into building that strategic plan. There were a number of stakeholders involved, and we are including that in the application in order to continue to move that forward. And just note that the structure of this funding opportunity was informed by the Agriculture and Food System Strategic Plan as well. And so we're looking to support projects that will also move forward and continue to articulate how we'll work towards implementing that plan. Here we'll just offer a few examples of eligible and ineligible projects. A producer association requests funds to conduct an advertising campaign that will benefit their specialty crop members, and the producer association will hire a marketing consultant for the project. That would absolutely be an eligible project. Another eligible project for this funding opportunity could be a for-profit service provider hosting a workshop series for 6 producer associations focused on governance training, professional development, membership development, and fiscal sustainability at no cost to the participating associations. A project that would be ineligible would be a company requesting grant funds to purchase starter plants or equipment used to plant, cultivate, or grow a specialty crop and expand production of a single business. And an example of another eligible project would be a nonprofit service provider will partner with the producer association to facilitate a strategic planning process that engages the producer association's leadership and also membership. One thing that is unique about this opportunity, as Christina mentioned, is that matching funds are not required for the Specialty Crop Producer Association grant. And there are some circumstances where matching funds could be used to better explain commitment from partners and full project scope. So for example, matching funds could be used to ensure all specialty crop block grant funds will enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops. An example would be a project that promotes specialty crops through marketing agritourism, but non-specialty crop farms make up 40% of the farms participating in the program. Therefore, showing a 50% match would account for any benefit to the non-specialty crop farms to ensure that all the specialty crop farm funding is going to benefit specialty crop businesses, recognizing that some associations may have membership that's mixed between specialty crop producers and specialty crop businesses and others. Another example may just be when total project costs are greater than the specialty crop grant request. So matching funds would be used to explain how all of the work will be completed beyond the contribution of the grant. Matching funds may be any combination of cash and in-kind funds in the event that they are required for either ones of these reasons. But like we said at the beginning, matching funds are not required for this grant unless there will be these other factors included. The other component to the application will be the project budget, and just wanted to share a little bit more detail on this. So because this is a one-stage application process, the budget is an important component to help us understand how funds are going to be spent. And these starred items here are equipment, supplies, contractual, and other. Those are areas where the applicant will need to provide additional detail within the application about how funds will be spent, just to make sure that we are working and are making sure that things fit properly, because some of these definitions can be a bit specific. For equipment, any item that is less than $5,000 per unit price actually isn't equipment. So some things that you might think of as equipment technically are not. And that's why we are going to ask people to really elaborate on what they mean by equipment, what they mean by supplies. And then there are really specific federal regulations around contractual commitments. And so just wanting to make sure that we have full detail about how folks are planning to hire in any additional support for their project beyond or outside of their organization. And then, of course, wanting more detail about what the other means within your budget, and then where your matching source and matching funds will come from if they are needed for your project, but they are not required for the grant. We did also just want to give a note about the outcome measures for these grants. This is part of the evaluation process. You'll see that there are 8 outcomes on this screen, and as you're working through the application, you'll be asked to select one of these outcomes, which you will use to measure the progress of your project and the success of your project. And we encourage folks to, as they're working through the application, the request for applications is really that core document that has all the information you need to know to submit a successful application. If you look to Appendix A of that application, you'll see the whole outcomes and indicators listed out together. And so we encourage you to take a look at that document and select which outcome is going to best capture any types of information or data that you could be gathering over the course of your project to indicate the success of the project. And we encourage you to select at least one, and sometimes selecting just one outcome and just one indicator to report on in your project is going to be the best route for success, just to limit the reporting burden. So we recommend just choosing one in the application, but you can choose more if needed. One thing that is unique about this grant project is that we want to get a sense from applicants about what types of technical assistance support they feel they would need to ensure the success of their project. And so the application asks applicants to identify the type of services that they would need from a drop-down list. And some applicants may already have existing relationships with technical assistance service providers who have agreed to support them in implementing their proposed project, and that is great. And some applicants may not yet have that support. And so we just want to get a sense of if folks need support, what type of support is needed, and we will do our best to kind of connect people or to make sure that people are working with some of our great partners across the Farm to Plate network to implement these projects and get the support that they need. I guess to give a little bit more on this as well, This grant application is open as well to service providers who could be serving in that support role as a technical assistance provider to producer associations. So that's another component to this as well, is just wanting to make sure that we're not only are we giving producer associations financial assistance, but we are also supporting them and getting the technical assistance that they need to succeed. So this is kind of an overview of how to apply for the Specialty Crop Producer Association grant. So the application is due, as Christina said, on February 27th at 11:59 p.m., which is a Sunday. So we encourage folks to get started on their applications before then and reach out to us so that we can answer any questions that you have during regular business hours. The components that are required are a summary of your project and estimated timeline, including the specific issue, problem, or need that your project will address, the objectives your project hopes to achieve, your project's impact on the specialty crop industry, explain who will benefit from your project and describe an outreach plan for reaching this audience, and describe the producer association membership, upload a list of current members of your producer association, and explain why specialty crop businesses support this project. We'll also ask that you choose one outcome measure and any additional if needed to measure the success of your project. And that ties into your monitoring and evaluation plan to ensure measure the project success. Also ask that you provide a detailed budget, including any matching funds, if applicable, and indicate the type of technical assistance services that would help your project succeed. And lastly, there's also an option to upload letters of support if you wish. I think I just have one more slide, which is the timeline. So the request for applications was released a week ago now, January 18th. And this coming Tuesday, February 1st, is when the applications will open for submission and web grants. So some folks have reached out saying that they have tried to get in and they don't see it in there yet. And that is as planned on Tuesday, that will be live. And we'll do a little demonstration at the end here just to show how to register for web grants and where the application will appear once it is live. The application deadline is February, and we are going to have a review process, and we're planning to notify applicants in March whether or not they are receiving an award. And we are also then going to be scheduling a series of meetings with our staff at the Agency of Agriculture and the folks who are selected for awards. And we're going to meet with folks to really finalize the details of their project plan so that we have the information that we need to communicate to USDA how we're planning to use this funding and what types of projects are being funded. And then our goal is to send this state plan to USDA by April 1st so that we can have a response from USDA in confirmation that these projects will move forward by May. And then the plan will be that the projects will start in July at the earliest. But we'll see, we might be able to start earlier as well. So be in touch with us if that timeline is a difficulty. But this is a more condensed timeline than we're usually able to offer for a specialty crop because the Agency of Agriculture already has this money available. And we are going to be just reaching out to USDA to confirm that this plan works. They know our rough outline of our idea, but we're going to be able to provide them a lot more detail once we see what applications come in. And now I think I'll just pause and ask if there are any questions about what you've heard so far before we dive into discussing the second funding opportunity. And Christina is going to take over for that portion, which is the 2022 Vermont Specialty Crop Block Grant Program Award.
Great. Do you want me to take over now, Gina?
That'd be great.
All right.
I just stopped sharing my screen. Here we go.
So I'm going to try sharing again. Let me. Nope. Let me try this one more time. Are you seeing? Yeah, it's not sharing.
It is sharing just from not from the presenter like slideshow view, but I'm seeing the Microsoft PowerPoint open up there.
Okay, let me try one more time. Okay, what about now? Are you seeing the correct screen now?
That's working. Yep.
Okay, great. I was trying to get it out of presenter view so that I could actually see the screen of Teams as well, but I'm just going to give up on that. And so I'm just going to look at the slides, and hopefully you are all able to let Gina know if you have any questions. Feel free to put those in the chat. So we're going to look at our regular Vermont Specialty Crop Block Grant Program annual award cycle. So many of you may be familiar with this program. And again, the eligibility here is really open to any entity, but projects have to benefit more than one specialty crop business, individual, or organization. So we're really looking for projects that are going to benefit a group of producers or an industry. And projects to establish or expand a single business or organization are not eligible. We have approximately $200,000 to award in 2022, and there's no minimum or maximum award, but we can look at the average award over the past 5 years, which is around $30,000, and around 50% of awarded projects receive between $19,000 and $45,000. So we're really looking to you to tell us, have a really well reasoned budget and let us know what you need to accomplish the work of your project. Multi-year projects are eligible, and projects can be funded for up to 2.5 years or 30 months. So previously funded and multi-state projects are two kind of special cases within the Vermont Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. Projects that build on a previous Specialty Crop Block Grant Program project, we might call this a continuation project, are eligible, but there are some caveats. So you will need to explain how the project complements but doesn't duplicate the previous work of the project, and describe the likelihood that the project will become self-sustaining over time and not permanently dependent on grant funds. I know that's not always a possibility in terms of projects that are going to be continuously dependent on grant funds, but that's something that USDA requires us to ask. But really what we're looking for is, maybe you had a project where you researched a particular irrigation practice, and you found that there were some pros and cons, and now you want to build on that and do another experiment with a slightly different practice. So we're looking for something that isn't the same as what was funded previously, but can build upon that previous work. Multi-state projects that are addressing challenges in 2 or more states are also eligible, but there are 2 ways of going about this. One is to submit a Specialty Crop Block Grant Program application to each state where organizations will serve as project partners. So you might you might be working in Vermont with an organization that is based across the Connecticut River. In New Hampshire, you could then apply to both the Vermont Specialty Crop Block Grant Program and the New Hampshire Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. And both of those programs would need to separately award parts of the project. So it can be a little tricky because there may be instances where New Hampshire grants you the award, but Vermont doesn't, or vice versa. Or you can apply to the Specialty Crop Multi-State Program, which is a separate competition that takes place at USDA. So you would need to apply directly to USDA for those funds, and we can put you in touch with the contacts for that program, but we don't administer that program here in Vermont. We do have a matching funds requirement, also known as cost share, for this program. Proposals should show matching funds equaling at least 50% of the grant request. So an example here is if you were requesting $10,000, you would need a minimum of $5,000 in matching funds or cost share. Under limited circumstances, we can waive the match requirement, but that's something you would want to explain in your application, outlining the impact of the project and indicating any special circumstances that would encourage reviewers to justify this consideration. So with that said, there's a lot of flexibility in how you provide that match through this program. So we can accept any combination of cash or in-kind funds as match. So cash match would be funds in the bank, funds contributed by another organization, your own organization's labor toward the project, compensation of employees who are going to be working specifically on the project, or it could be goods and services provided during the grant period, either by your organization or by a partner organization. So that could be like volunteer labor or contractors or consultants who are providing goods or services without charging. Indirect costs, also known as facilities and administrative costs, are things like, the cost of your office space, the cost of administrative staff, where the staff aren't necessarily working on any one particular project or program. Those are also allowable as match. And secondly, your funds may be used to ensure that all specialty crop funds specifically benefit specialty crops. So an example here is that if you have a project that's going to be marketing agritourism and some of the farms that are going to benefit from your project are not specialty crops farms, they might be dairy or livestock farms, you would want to take a look at that and say, okay, well, 40% of the farms participating in my program are specialty crop farms or non-specialty crop farms or dairy or livestock farms, and 60% of the farms are specialty crop farms. So that 50% match will account for the benefit that those non-specialty crop producers would gain from their proposed project. So the matching funds requirement also allows you to have some flexibility and your project being beneficial to non-specialty crop producers or businesses. Eligibility, we've talked a little bit about this, but eligible projects really should benefit and produce measurable outcomes for multiple specialty crop businesses and or the public. And we do encourage individual businesses, organizations, or individuals to collaborate with folks from the industry, such as members of producer associations, to ensure that the project is really going to benefit multiple specialty crop businesses and address the industry's needs. So we do have a list of producer associations and their contact information on our website here, and we can share that in the chat or via email as well if you're looking for that resource. And individual businesses can apply for projects, but we would want to see that they are working in partnership with Extension or other partners to really make sure that their project is getting out there and that whatever the outcomes of their project are going to really benefit multiple businesses. And lastly, projects that are primarily focused on a single business, infrastructure projects to really expand a single business or organization are just not eligible for funding. And that is part of the federal restrictions that made this funding available. We're going to talk a little bit about eligible and ineligible projects again. So, specialty crop organization requests funds to promote its organization. That in and of itself is ineligible. An organization is going to request funds to conduct research on the feasibility of planting, growing, and cultivating a crop in an area and share those results throughout the state. This, on the other hand, is going to be eligible because we're seeing that outreach to multiple producers in the state. If an organization requests funds to promote Vermont specialty crops and access to these markets will benefit a variety of producers, that is, again, it is eligible. But a farm requesting funds to purchase equipment to expand its own production capacity is, again, going to be ineligible because it's just benefiting that single business. Similarly, if a company requests funds to promote its brand of specialty crops, that is an ineligible project. But if a grower requests funds to establish a new cooperative to help other producers diversify their operations, that would be eligible because we're seeing that impact on multiple businesses. And these are a couple of tricky ones. A group requests funds to launch a promotion campaign to increase the brand awareness of Vermont grown. That's going to be ineligible because there are a lot of things that can be Vermont grown that are not specialty crops. So that would be a case where matching funds could be used to ensure specialty crop funds will enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops. But a group that is requesting funds to launch a campaign to increase sales of Vermont grown pumpkins, this would be eligible because a lot of Vermont farms grow pumpkins and pumpkins are a specialty crop. We have several state funding priorities this year, and I won't go into detail with all of these, but I just want to point out a few, and that you can find all of these on our request for applications. But some of the state funding priorities that we've identified are research, development, and dissemination of innovative production practices, pest and disease management, enhancing food safety, value chain enhancement, technical assistance for a variety of project areas, market access, producer collaboration, which we are also addressing through our producer association grant, and again, responding to priority needs related to COVID-19. Gina talked a little bit about outcome measures under the Producer Association grant opportunity. And what I am going to share now is that USDA actually went through a process with the entire Agricultural Marketing Service Division and created a simplified set of outcomes that we can use for reporting. So because we actually received our funds that we are using for the Specialty Crop Producer Association grant last year, we are working with the old 1 through 8 outcome measures. This year, we are working with a new, somewhat simplified set of 7 outcome measures. So depending on which opportunity you're applying for this year, you'll have slightly different outcome measures to work with. But again, the overall idea here is that the outcomes are going to tell the story of your project through measuring and showing the impact of your project in a way that where people can say, hey, you know, we improved this, we expanded this, we developed this, and there's some kind of a numeric measurement that you will be reporting on. These are our 7 outcome measures for 2022 and moving forward, focusing on consumption and consumer purchasing, increasing access to specialty crops, or enhancing production and distribution, food safety, pests and disease management, developing new seed varieties or new specialty crops, research and development, and improving environmental sustainability. So if you're applying to this program, you'll choose one of these outcome measures. You can choose more than one, but just keep in mind that the more outcome measures you choose, the more you have to measure and report on as part of your project. So you don't want to get bogged down in reporting to the extent that you're not going to be successful in completing the work of your project. You really want to focus on what outcome measure, or maybe more than one, that is going to tell the story of your work over time and show the impact of your project. So after you've selected your outcome measure, you are also going to choose one or more indicators. The indicators are the thing that you're actually going to measure throughout your project. So there are selected indicators for each outcome. And again, this is an area where you can choose one indicator, you can choose more, but just keep in mind that the more you choose, the more you're going to have to measure. So for example, if you have selected outcome 1, you have a project to enhance the competitiveness of specialty crops through increasing consumption and consumer purchasing, you can choose indicator 1.1, total number of consumers who gain knowledge about specialty crops. Or maybe your project is actually more focused on marketing and sales, so you're going to choose indicator 1.5 and show how you actually increase sales for specialty crop producers rather than the number of consumers you contacted or reached. In the pre-application for the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program, you're going to supply an estimated project budget that will include any personnel costs, travel costs, equipment, supplies, contractual, or other costs. As Gina mentioned, you will provide a little bit more detail on some of the equipment, supplies, and contractual costs. For example, what types of supplies you're going to need to supply, or what type of contractor or consultant you plan to engage with to complete your project. And again, just knowing that there are specific definitions for equipment under federal grant. So that is really an area where you want to read the fine print and understand that many of the things that you might think of as equipment are actually going to fall under the supplies definition. And if you are purchasing equipment under your project, there are additional limitations. And on the reporting side of things, there are additional reporting areas that may need to be completed even after your project, because the federal government will retain an interest in equipment that retains a value of over $5,000 even after your project is completed. We're going to cover how to apply. Again, we have a two-stage application process here. So you're going to submit your pre-application by Sunday, February 27th at 11:59 p.m. Our web grants management system actually turns off the application after 11:59 p.m. So we do really need folks to be aware of that deadline, and we've never been able to figure out how to give it a grace period, so that it's a strict cutoff point. And that pre-application is really going to be a summary of your project and estimated timeline. Again, that specific issue, problem, or need your project will address, your project's objectives, and the impact that you want your project to have on the specialty crop industry. You're also going to explain who the beneficiaries are for your project, describe the specialty crop stakeholders who support the project, and explain why they support it. You're going to choose one outcome measure and any additional if you feel they are appropriate for your project. Talk about your monitoring and evaluation plan. That's going to be how you're actually going to collect the data you'll need to report on that outcome measure. And again, provide your estimated budget. Our timeline here is a lot more, it's a longer timeline than for our Specialty Crop Producer Association opportunity. Again, on February 1st, you'll be able to get into web grants and take a look at the application there. But I will just share that if you look at the request for applications now, you're going to see all of the questions that will be in web grants. So you can really still start your project plan now. In March, we will notify applicants of their invitation to submit a full application. And the deadline for that will be in April. And then in May, we will submit our what's called a state plan, which is our plan for USDA as to how we want to spend all of these Specialty Crop Block Grant Program funds. And we then wait a little bit until we are notified of their decision. So that's usually in August, and USDA at that point may have some questions or may need us to make a few adjustments if we missed some areas or we have some confusion about whether a specific cost might be eligible. Then in September, we generally receive our award from USDA. That usually begins at the end of the federal fiscal year on September 30th. And in October, we can hit send on our awards to our subrecipients. So there are some flexibilities there for people that really need to get started in this growing season. We can allow folks to expend what are called pre-award costs and essentially start their projects a little bit earlier. But in general, the project start date for this program is going to be October 1st, 2022. And now I'm going to, I think I'll maybe keep the slideshow for one moment because I think Gina is going to then share her screen. Gina's going to give a little web grants tutorial and show you how to get into the system and what it'll look like when the application is available. Gina, do you want me to stop sharing now?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, great. Gonna end slideshow.
All right.
All right.
So if folks can see my screen, I have here the web grants landing page. So you'll find this link if you go to the program website, agriculture.vermont.gov/grants/specialty crop, or within the request for application itself. So the first step is going to be to register if you do not already have a web grants account. And you'll do so by clicking this button here to register. And the registrations can take up to 1 to 2 business days. So definitely recommend getting in web grants before you plan to submit, especially, considering the application deadline is on a weekend day. You'll need to make sure that you're in the web grants in advance so that our staff have a chance to review and approve your registration if you are a new user. So I'm just going to sign in using our testing account here. This is what web grants looks like once you are inside of it. And here on the
make your screen a little bit bigger.
Yes.
Thank you.
So when you open web grants and you sign in, your dashboard on the left-hand side of the page is going to be your primary tool for navigating. You will see in the applications bar here is where you will look to find the new application. It's not there yet because it's not live until February 1st. But you will go in and you will click that application and you'll start working through the different pages. So I'm just going to see if I can find an old specialty crop application that we can work from here. There we go. Here are some of them. So this is what the application will look like. You'll hit edit application and you'll just have these different component parts. Before you wrap up any section of the application, you'll need to go in and mark it as complete. And then once all are marked as complete, you can hit submit. If you have any questions as you're working through your web grants application, you need assistance, technical assistance is available from our grants and contracts team. So Melissa Moon will be your contact. And this is her phone and this is her email address if you have any questions. I did also just want to show you this page, which has some helpful web grants guides and tutorials within it. So if you go to our regular agriculture.vermont.gov home screen, you hover over funding opportunities, you'll see this page here, resources for grant applicants and recipients. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there are a number of tools here. So there is how to apply for grant and web grants, how to submit a claim, how to submit a status report. And these links are also available within the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program webpage. But here is where you will find a step-by-step application guide. Once you register, these are the steps to applying funding opportunities. Click on it and then work through your application. And there are some kind of, if you have any issues or have any questions, feel free to reach out. We do recommend that folks draft their application in a word processing document, just in case things get lost and there are save errors. But the system has been improved recently, and so we hope that it will be a seamless process for folks. And if you have questions, reach out, refer to these resources, and refer to the RFA for any additional information on the application questions. The RFA matches up with the questions that you'll see in the application and web grant. So if you have questions, you can always look back at the RFA as well. And I think we just have maybe one slide left, two, so I'll share my screen again. So we did also want to call out there are support services available in partner networks if you need assistance with your application. We're here and available to answer any questions about eligibility, the allowability of different specific program costs or project costs that you're considering. But we encourage you to reach out to other support if you need it for actually kind of developing your project and planning for your project. So we just wanted to highlight a couple of these resources. This is the Agriculture Planning and Assistance Directory, is a hub of resources on our website, which include technical assistance support, USDA resources, and different grants and loans and financing options. You'll also find on that web page a link to a set of agricultural grant writing consultants, which we hope this application is simple enough that that type of support isn't necessary, and we are trying to make the application easier every year. So if there's any kind of roadblocks you're getting into, please do reach out to us. But there's also this additional support available, and this is a list here of private consultants that the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board maintains. They are not endorsed by the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, but are provided as people who have reached out and offered their services. And then the Rural Economic Development Initiative is another one that we wanted to call out. They will cover the costs of hiring grant writing consultants for projects specifically targeting in small towns and rural areas. And that comes to the end of what we have prepared, and we are about an hour earlier than scheduled, so there's time if anyone has questions. I know the chat has been really active. Thank you so much, Christina, for answering all these questions for folks. If anybody has anything else that they'd like to ask, feel free to unmute yourself or send a note in the chat, and we'll hang tight here for a few more minutes.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, and I guess I will just say too about, when it comes to grant writing, a lot of the language in the template for the application it sounds a little formal because this is a federal grant program. But when it comes to what you are talking about your project, really feel free to use everyday language. We're not looking for, this isn't an academic grant program. We're not looking for a formal presentation. We're looking for you to just clearly tell the reviewers what you would like to accomplish with your project, why it's important, how you're going to do the work of your project, and what the impact will be. Sarah has a question. We do not want to apply for a grant to do with hemp, but we have CBD on our farm. Will that make us ineligible? So absolutely not. The focus can be on whatever project you have that will benefit specialty crop producers. think we'll give it one more minute, and then we will log off. We will make the recording available on our website.
Folks can always reach out if they have any questions as well.
Definitely. And I also just want to thank Gina for all of the work that she has put into creating this special opportunity for producer associations this year. Very exciting. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions.
Looks like we do
Oh,
have.
actually, stay on a minute. Go ahead, Gina.
Yep, I'm just seeing this question. Thinking about a project that would focus on helping farmers learning to start doing markets instead of just wholesale. That sounds great. Yeah, I don't see any eligibility concerns around that. And it would just be a matter of when you fill out the application, you know, aligning it with the funding priorities and providing some more detail.
Yep. And I think the other piece is, you know, I think there are a lot of really great ideas that are eligible for this program, but we will, reviewers specifically will want to see that you have some partnership in place and that you have some support from specialty crop producers in your community or in the state to know that this is a project that they really want to see completed. So I will attempt to answer April's question about which of these grants would be applicable to farmers markets or both. I either would, this is a little bit of a tricky area, and I will copy a response that I put in the chat earlier and then also kind of go through it in a little bit of detail. So technically, farmers markets are eligible for the regular specialty crop competition, but projects to support farmers markets or those types of related activities are not a primary purpose of this program. So USDA really encourages farmers markets and entities like that support roadside stands or community supported agriculture programs, including agritourism, to submit those projects to the farmers market promotion program or the local food promotion program. So it's farmers markets are eligible, but again, it's not a primary purpose of the program. For the Specialty Crop Producer Association grants, farmers markets are also eligible, but the project should really be focused on one or more of the areas that are outlined in the request for applications. So it should really be focused on supporting that collaboration between producers or supporting multiple specialty crop businesses or farms rather than benefiting the market organization itself. So it can't be a project to support the farmers market, but it could be a project that is going to support multiple businesses within the farmers market organization. I hope that is clear. I think we might have had a hand up as well.
I think I saw Susan Dunn's hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I actually put my hand down because I had a farmer's market related question also. And I think that you answered it.
Great, thank you.
Great. Well, I hope this helped folks kind of get oriented to the two separate funding opportunities. I was looking at the registration forms as they were coming in, and it looked like there were a number of people who weren't sure if they wanted to apply for both funding opportunities or which one was really the right fit for them. So we're hoping that at the end of this, after this presentation, you'll have a better sense of which opportunity might be the best fit for you, or in the case of the Vermont Sugar Makers Association, it looks like that you all are interested in applying for both opportunities for 2 distinct projects. So Christina, I guess maybe I was interested, maybe if you wanted to share a little bit more about your response to that question, just to make it clear for the folks in the recording who wouldn't be able to see the chat, that question there.
Sure. So an organization such as a producer association could definitely apply to both opportunities, but we would not award funds for the same project or for a similar project out of both opportunities. So what we're looking for are 2 really distinct projects. Those could be, we could award 2 projects to the same organization in a year as long as they were distinct projects without any overlapping activities or budget costs.
Great. So Christina, just to clarify on that, that means that someone could apply, a producer association could apply for the Producer Association grant and the Specialty Crop Block Grant Program. Theoretically, any organization could also submit 2 separate applications for either of those funding opportunities, if that was appropriate, as long as they were a distinct project without overlapping budget items.
Certainly, yeah. And what we've told people in previous years that you could certainly submit 2 applications to the regular Specialty Crop Block Grant Program award. But keep in mind that there is a competitive objective review process, and reviewers, they may be unlikely to want to award 2 projects to the same applicant in 1 year. So we are trying to, the reviewers do look at the limited amount that we have to award, and they want to use those funds wisely and not necessarily concentrate them in any one recipient or one area.
It's really helpful. Thanks, Christina. Okay. Not seeing any other questions. I think we can wrap it up for today. Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, Gina.